So perfect, especially for fall. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, it is going to be a very exciting one because we are going to be reviewing and tasting Ippodo Tea's matcha. And Ippodo Tea, they have a very soft and special place in my heart because they are probably the first brand that I've tried for matcha that was really high quality and really made me want to get into matcha and figuring out like what makes matcha good. So they are very near and dear to my heart. They will always be in my top favorite matchas like for the rest of my life, and it's because of how good they are. So I have 4 different blends here with us today. We actually have the tsukikage, which is I think it's a fall special, or it's not always available, so this is like a seasonal special. So we have this one, we have sayaka, which is my favorite, and then we also have horai over here, and then we have ummon over here. All right, so let's just get into it because I'm really excited, especially about this fall one. So let's give it a taste. I made these all just yusucha style, so this has nothing added to it. I just poured the matcha into it with a couple of ice cubes. So let's try it out like this first. That is delicious. It is slightly umami, and I think this is more of like a medium-bodied matcha because it's not really light where it's like, I would say it's like refreshing, and it's also not really rich and full-bodied where it's more of that deeper matcha flavor, but it has a really nice punch in the face type of taste when you initially sip it, and then you get like that hint of umami, kind of like a saltiness to it, and then it kind of ends on a creamy note, which I really enjoy. It's delicious. Let's try it with some milk. It does give me like fall vibes. Like this matcha with the milk kind of tastes like autumn, I guess. Like it's not like it tastes like anything like pumpkin or of that sort, but it has a very like cozy effect to it when I added the milk. And I love like that the milk kind of enhanced the creaminess of the matcha itself, and also enhances like the umami taste where it kind of just meshes well so perfectly together and creates like a cozy taste. Like I feel like if I made this into a hot matcha, it would taste even extra cozier. And again, because it's medium bodied, it carries through with the milk, which I also really appreciate. So you still get that matcha flavor, and then you get the creaminess and the umami. Okay, next up we have sayaka, and I already know how much I love this blend. This is one of my favorites from their line of matchas. Yeah, this one is my all-time favorite, and it's because of how bold it is and because of how rich it is, how creamy it is, and I also really appreciate the umami-ness of this one. It's super bold where it's like a full-bodied matcha, and you initially get like a bite out of it when you sip it from the matcha taste, and then it kind of cascades into like a very creamy umami-ness to it, and it's just so smooth in taste. There is like a little bit of bitterness that I experienced when sipping it initially, but it doesn't linger on the tongue for too long, so it's like not really unpleasant. But yeah, I just love it because it's like all of my favorite things in one matcha. So let's try it as a latte. That's the stuff. That is the stuff. Good. And I usually drink it as a latte version, so this to me is like perfection. And this is my favorite blend specifically because of the strong matcha flavor, and I love that it doesn't really alter in the taste when you add the milk to it. Like it still carries such a great matcha flavor, and I love that the umami-ness of it shines through a little bit too, and it's just super creamy. Like I love creamy matchas, and if you love that too, definitely try sayaka because perfection. Okay, next up we are going to be trying the horai blend. Whoa. so I know that the website does say that they are the same matcha, but I experienced something completely different with this horai versus the sayaka. So this one is much more light and refreshing and definitely grassier with like hint of umami. And this one is full bodied, like bold, rich, creamy, and stronger umami taste. So let's just try this one with milk and see if it does anything to it. Yeah, I feel like with the milk, it kind of just tastes the same. It's still very grassy and still very light. And the matcha flavor isn't as intense as the sayaka. So I would say, yeah, this one is definitely like a lighter version of it. But again, I taste something completely different than the sayaka blend. Even with the milk, it still kind of tastes the same as a yusucha. And lastly, we are going to try the ummon. Look at that gorgeous green. Look at that gorgeous green color. That is another one of my favorites. The ummon and the sayaka, they both are delicious. Delicious, delicious, delicious. Yeah, this ummon is very umami, very rich, and with a beautiful, like, deep matcha flavor. Kind of like you still get, I feel like it's not as sharp as a bite or like a punch of that matcha flavor compared to the sayaka. Like, this one is more like muted, but it's still very bold, and like you still get that rich matcha flavor. And this one to me tastes a little bit more roasted. Like, this one I love because it's like roasted and it's umami, and it's like the perfect amount where it's not like too much in the matcha powder. So delicious. Let's try it with milk. Yep. 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 That is magnificent. As a latte for the ummon blend, it kind of reminds me of like kinako. Like, it tastes like a kinako matcha, and that's like roasted soybean. So that's one of my favorite like profiles in matcha. So when I find one that's like a little bit roasted and umami and kind of like peanutty, I tend to gravitate towards that, surprisingly, because I just love like being able to have something that's really creamy but also like salty at the same time. I feel like it balances each other out, and that's what I experienced with ummon. And with the bold matcha flavor, it's like perfection, and addition with the milk makes it creamy. So it's like the perfect mix of all the things that I really love in a matcha, in a good matcha latte. So that one, amazing. Amazing. All right, so since we just tried all of these, here are my final rankings and my recommendations. So starting off with the tsukikage, in the category of richness, I gave this a 3 out of 5. This was a pretty rich matcha, very medium again, so I feel like it wasn't light and it wasn't super rich. In the category of bitterness, I gave it a 0 out of 5. I didn't really experience any bitterness to this one. It was very, very, very smooth. In the category of color, I gave this a 5 out of 5. This was a stunning green, and you can probably tell on the screen, but it is just like the perfect shade of green. 5 out of 5. Sweetness, I gave this a 0 out of 5. It wasn't really a sweet matcha, and in the category of umami, I gave this a 3 out of 5 because it was more of an umami-forward matcha. Yeah, kind of more like umami. And next up, for the sayaka, in the category of richness, I gave this one a 4 out of 5. This is a very, very, very rich matcha, and it's one of the few that I've tried that has actual like bold matcha taste, where you get that like strong and sharp punch in the face of matcha. So I gave that a 4 out of 5. For bitterness, I gave it a 2 out of 5 because I did experience some bitterness in the matcha, like when I was tasting it, and it's there, but it doesn't linger for a while. In the category of color, I gave this one a 4 out of 5 because it, compared to the rest of these, that one is a little bit more muted of a green compared to the rest, which are like bright and vibrant green. So only a 4 out of 5 because other than that, it's still a really beautiful green. In the category of sweetness, I gave this one a 0 out of 5 because it is not a sweet matcha. I don't really get hints of sweetness anywhere. Umami, I gave it a 2 out of 5 because this one is slightly umami. It has more of like that salty taste to it. And next up, for horai, in the category of richness, I gave this one a 1 out of 5. It's not rich at all. It's a very light matcha. In the category of bitterness, I gave it a 1 out of 5 because I did slightly taste some bitterness initially. Category of color, I gave this one also a 4 out of 5 because it wasn't as vibrant. Kind of similar to the sayaka, it was more of like a muted green. In the category of sweetness, I gave it a 1 out of 5. It's slightly sweet, but I wouldn't say like it's super like sweet like vanilla. Category of umami, I also gave this a 1 out of 5. Slightly there, but not enough to give it more than a 1. Okay, and then lastly for ummon, in the category of richness, I gave this one a 3 out of 5. It's more medium bodied, I would say. Not as strong as the sayaka, but you know, not as mellow as the horai. In the category of bitterness, I give it a 0 out of 5. This is a super smooth matcha with absolutely no bitterness. Color, I gave it 5 out of 5. This one and this one, gorgeous greens, beautiful greens. In the category, I have drank too much matcha. In the category of sweetness, I gave this one a 0 out of 5. This isn't a sweet matcha at all. In the category of umami, I gave it a 2 out of 5. So for my recommendations on what you guys should buy from Ippodo, I will say the sayaka and the ummon for sure. I think those both are really enjoyable matcha blends, and if you like umami and creaminess, the sayaka and the ummon for sure. I would say if you are a little bit newer to matcha, maybe the sayaka might be a little bit too bold, I would say, maybe in the taste, especially if you're a yusucha or Americano drinker of matcha. I think it might be a little bit too strong for your palate right away. So if you are starting more of like beginner matcha, I would say maybe the horai, since they are, according to the website, it's the same matcha. But I've experienced something different, so I feel like something maybe, I don't know. If you guys know, can you let me know? Because I just don't have any idea. But I know that I've experienced a different taste in this versus the sayaka. So I would say maybe start with the horai because it is lighter and it's definitely not as bold. So if you're starting to get into matcha, maybe this one as a beginner. And I would say if Ippodo comes out with any fall special like seasonal powders like this one, I would say to immediately buy it because I've tried their spring one too, and that one was amazing, and it was such a good quality matcha, and I really enjoyed it. And I also enjoyed this fall one. So if they ever come out with like a seasonal special, I would hop on that and get it because it goes pretty quickly and there's usually like a wait list for it to get it. All that to say, I think Ippodo Tea is such a good brand that all of their matchas will be good because it's such a high quality, and it kind of just depends what your flavor profile is, like what you gravitate more towards. Like for me, like ummon and sayaka, because they're umami, they're creamy, they have a rich matcha flavor, so I gravitate more towards those. But I think I've tried all of their blends and all of them I've enjoyed. It's just there's ones that I enjoy a lot more, which are these two here. So that's my recommendation. Any and all, and I think they are so worth your money, and they are a great brand. I've been a loyal customer for years now. Me and my mom, who loves their matcha, we are loyal to them. So all that to say, Ippodo is such a great brand, especially if you are starting off in matcha. You start off in this, you will set your standards very high for matcha, which is good because they have such a high quality, and it's definitely worth every penny. You will for sure enjoy it and also have a lot of fun figuring out which blends and which profiles you like. So I hope this helped you guys. This is one of my favorite matcha brands of all time, so I know you guys will have fun with whatever you decide to purchase, but I will see you guys in the next video, and yeah, keep drinking matcha. Bye.